A common phrase is, you get what you pay for when you buy cheap items. But does that hold true for the Evenflo Pivot Explorer, which is one of the more budget-friendly stroller wagons in the market? I've owned the Evenflo Explorer for about 6 months now, and in this video, I want to share with you the pros and cons of this stroller wagon. When my son was the only child, it was easy to take him places in our leaky trike, but as our family of 3 grew to 4, we needed a more practical way of taking both of our children places without the need to lug around 2 strollers. We started looking for various wagons in the market and found that many of them had quite a high price tag. We couldn't justify the large spending, so we decided to go with the Evenflo Pivot Explorer, which is supposed to retail for $300.99. However, the wagon does seem to go on sale quite often. My suggestion is that unless you absolutely need it immediately, be a bit patient and wait for a sale. As of recording this video, the price on Amazon shows that it's available for $319.99, which isn't a bad price. I want to note that when I purchased this 6 months ago, the retail price was $369.99. So it looks like Evenflo increased the regular price by $30 since then. While $300 to $400 is still pricey, it's much more palatable than compared to something like the Veer or the Keens. Naturally, seeing such a huge price difference makes one wonder if perhaps the Evenflo is only half as good since it's about half the price. In short, I would say no. It's actually a pretty nice wagon, but of course there are some quirks that hold it back from being perfect. Let's start with what I like about the wagon, besides the reasonable price. A very important feature of stroller wagons is that they need to be easily folded and unfolded for transportation. The last thing you want is to spend 5 minutes putting it away or taking it out. The stroller wagon is very intuitive and easy to use, even for those who skip out on reading the instruction manual. It won't take much to figure it out. Unfolding and folding shouldn't take much longer than 30 seconds, if even that long. To fold up the wagon, fold up the storage basket, and close the canopy. Press the easy entry lever to collapse the front area. Press both the fold level release on the sides and pull the stroller up to collapse. And that's pretty much it to fold it up. And to unfold, pretty much follow the exact same thing except in reverse order. It's not necessary, but I found that it was easier to fold and unfold with the wheel locks engaged. This way the wagon doesn't slide around as easily. By no means would anyone consider the Evenflo Explorer compact. When folded, it still easily fits both in my wife's Subaru Outback as well as my Mazda 3 hatchback. If you have a smaller car, this might be a bit difficult to fit in the trunk. Steering the stroller wagon is very easy and doesn't take much effort to push even with 2 children inside. Overall very smooth and probably compares to something like the UPPAbaby Vista stroller. Honestly, it doesn't really feel any different than pushing a stroller considering it's a wagon that weighs a bit more than most strollers. The handle can either be set in push mode when you want to push the wagon like a stroller, or use the latch on the side to release the handle to pull the wagon, which is ideal for terrain that isn't as friendly for pushing. I've read that some people think that the canopies are a bit too small and are worthless, but I found them to be very useful. The small canopy size allows for greater adjustment so that you can block out the sun but still allow your child to see their surroundings. They are UPF 50+, which is the highest rating you can get. A small note is that the canopies are reversible, so if you want, you can change things up a bit depending on your mood. The storage basket isn't large, but it's a decent size and for the most part, still fits everything we need for our outings. You can place the storage basket either on the front or the back so that it's not in the way depending on if you're pulling or pushing the wagon. Generally, you want the basket on the side the handle is on, so pushing in the back and pulling in the front. The reason is that this makes the wagon shorter, meaning it's easier to maneuver. You can even use the basket inside the wagon by folding it inwards, but this is really only useful if you have 1 child. While I can't tell you if the ride is smooth for the children, as both of mine are a bit too young to really verbally tell me, they do seem to enjoy riding the wagon. There is no suspension system, so I would assume they feel some bumps when riding. I like that the wagon includes a snack tray that has 2 separate sides, so each of my children has their own. The cup holder on these are decently sized as it does fit our Koala water bottles. The tray is also removable, which is important as this means it's much easier to wash and clean. The safety harness on the system is a 3.1. It works as intended and keeps my 1-year-old from doing anything too reckless. Another nice thing about the Evenflo Pivot Explorer is that it's modular and that you can purchase add-ons such as a toddler second stroller seat or an infant car seat adapter. The infant car seat adapter does make it so that you can use the wagon from birth. Now let's talk about some of the other stuff that I don't like about the Pivot Explorer. One of my biggest gripes about the stroller wagon is that it's a bit difficult to go over small bumps when pushing. When I say small bumps, I'm not talking about something like a sidewalk curb. I'm talking about the bumps from the driveway to the street. I'm not sure what causes this, but my best guess is that the wheels are either too small or too narrow. It takes quite a bit of momentum with my children inside to go over these bumps. If there's a curb, it's even harder to lift the stroller when it's in push mode. With 2 children inside, it takes quite a bit of force to pop the front wheels up. This also has me worried about if it's good for the wagon to take this much force on the handles. It doesn't feel like I'm breaking the handles, but it definitely is a concern, so I do avoid doing it. A workaround would be to change it from push to pull mode. This makes it so that the small bumps are much easier. However, curbs are still tough depending on how much your children weigh. Another issue that I noticed with the wheels is that the front smaller wheels wobble, but really under particular circumstances only. If there is no weight inside the wagon, or if the front side is lighter than the back side, there's a chance the front wheels will wobble. And even then, it doesn't always happen. The front wheels will definitely wobble if you're going at high speeds like jogging or running. Don't mind the shaky footage, as you probably guessed, I was running to recreate this. So basically, don't expect to be able to go jogging with the stroller wagon. Not a big issue for me, as I never plan to go jogging with it, but it does get annoying if for some reason I need to push the stroller a bit faster. It's annoying because when the front wheels wobble, you lose some of the control of the wagon as only the back wheels are contacting with the floor. Another annoying thing about this Xplore are the cup holders on the side and inside the wagon. They pretty much are made only to hold plastic water bottles. Anything larger won't fit. We generally don't use plastic water bottles anymore, so the outside cup holders are never used. The inside ones at least can serve as a place for my children to store items such as napkins. While this isn't a huge negative, I think they missed out on an opportunity to make an add-on to attach cup holders onto the handle so when parents are pushing the wagon, they have a place to put their drinks. We made use of this area by adding a stroller organizer, which allows us to store some extra stuff. It does have 2 cup holders on this particular one that we got from Disneyland. However, you can't put cups here because this handle isn't made for it. I love the concept of the footrest, as this allows my children to have a place to put their feet instead of stretching them out. But the footrest area is a bit small. My son sometimes does complain that his little sister is stepping on his feet. Although I do understand the only way to make this area larger would be make the wagon longer, which would make it harder to maneuver. So I guess you can't really win them all. Probably my biggest complaint I have about this wagon is that it's not exactly easy to lift a heavy wagon into the car. The Xplore itself weighs about 35 pounds, which is heavy, but it's not the main problem. There just isn't a convenient place to put your hands to lift it into your car. Trying to put it into your trunk just feels awkward. If you try to lift it from this area, you end up unfolding this section. I have to get pretty low to get my hands underneath to put it into the trunk. If the wagon was just heavy, I don't think I would have really considered it an issue, as it's understandable for something this large and built well to have some weight. I just wish it wasn't so awkward to lift up. I know some parents do complain that since this wagon has a footrest area, your children can't comfortably lay inside to sleep. Since I use this wagon with 2 children, chances are this was never going to be used that way for us. So I don't see it as a negative. But if you only have 1 child, then it might be something to consider. Although there are some pretty easy hacks you can find online that basically puts a plastic bin inside the footrest so there's no dip and your child can lay down. When you weigh the pros to the cons, I found that the pros still outweigh the cons. None of the cons were deal breakers for me, especially considering how pricey many of the alternatives in the market are. Overall, my family has been enjoying using the Evenflo Pivot Xplore. The children love taking the dogs on walks or going to farmer markets while sitting across from each other and eating snacks. Consider subscribing if you found this review helpful so you don't miss out on my other review. Let me know down below in the comments section what you think about the Xplore. Are any of the cons I mentioned a deal breaker? Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.